You gotta have that dog. Desire. That hunger. That non-stop will to win.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, let's get going, huh? Let's go, gather up. Come on now. All right, fellas, you gotta remember your body is like day-old rice. If it ain't warmed up properly, something real bad can happen. Yeah?
Athletes, take your mark. Get set. It's time for the Addict Athlete Podcast. Everybody out there, Coach Blue Robinson here. I want to thank you all so much for downloading, sharing, subscribing to the podcast. We greatly appreciate you doing so. As always, jump onto the website, Addict, T-O Athlete. You'll find all of our backlog podcasts, information about the team, even a pathway for you to become a certified coach for Team Addict Athlete to open your own chapter in your community. All that can be found on the website. And while you're there, check out the information that we have on our upcoming events. We've got lots of stuff happening in September as it's National Recovery Month. All kicks off this weekend with our Proxy Run 5K. So registration is still open, but by the time you hear this, it's the day of, so you're a little late. We'll have to see you next year. But nonetheless, I want to thank everybody who's registered and who will show up for that loved one that may have lost their battle to mental health or addiction. I look forward to hearing more about the loved ones you're running proxy for. Athletes in studio, I got a returning guest, and it's awesome because we had to fish this guy out of the middle of his walk across, over, around, and through America. Let's welcome back Kyndal, the walking testimony. Kyndal, welcome back to the Addict Athlete Studio, brother.
Coach Blue, it's so good to be back, man. It's so nice to be back here in Orem, Utah. Beautiful place out here with Addict Athletes, all about recovery, education, recreation.
100%.
And I'm all about that myself.
That is so cool, brother. And Kyndal, after last podcast, decided he wanted to be a little bit more influential when it comes to helping people in recovery and took and passed the certified coaching program. So you are officially an Addict Athlete recovery coach. And I've seen like that mess that you've been turning into a message every step of the way. I want to pick up where we left off, man.
Yes.
That cold day in January after you came out and hung out with the team for a day or so and had some interactions with them. You bid a farewell and pushed on. And dude, I remember watching you walk away, and it was like, I think the temperature that day was like 29 degrees cold. And I'm like, man, I can't believe he's still doing this. Heading north of all say, like north, dude.
Yeah, I went to Idaho right after here, man. I slipped and busted my butt at the Idaho line trying to get a picture with it in the snow. I had to retake it.
Man, carry us through that spot because we left you right there kind of in the middle of Utah. Let's talk a little bit about I'd love to talk about like the rest of your journey, but then like what you thought was going to be the end. And I remember when you had reached the end and you put your foot in that Pacific Ocean up there, that you had this feeling like, I'm not done yet. You almost had like a Forrest Gump moment where he's like turning around and coming back. So catch us up to speed to that point. Let's go from there.
Absolutely. So yeah, January this time last year, I was going through my first winter ever seeing snow. Being from Jacksonville, Florida, it was epic and insane. I learned a lot about myself, learned resiliency and everything like that. So after I took off from here, I went, north up through Ogden, Salt Lake, and all of that, up and through the Malad Pass into Idaho.
Yeah.
Took Idaho all the way across through American Falls, Twin Falls to Boise. Then hit Oregon, walked the whole Columbia River Gorge across the interstate there, to put my feet in the Pacific Ocean on April 12th, 2023, the special date about me finishing coast to coast. That was also my 4-year drug-free date, right over 64 months drug-free, biggest accomplishment of my life, even bigger than walking across America. I'm very thankful for that. But put my feet in the Pacific Ocean. I did take a little break. I met my girlfriend, Paige, in
Paige
Oklahoma.
was there, yeah.
She actually came out for the proxy run last year.
Yep.
I just saw her. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to make it, but I just spent some time with her in Washington. But after that, I flew back to Oklahoma to hang out with her for a little bit. And then I realized I had changed my ending location. I was going to end in La Push, Washington, but I had a specific date. I was going to try to finish by my birthday on March 30th. When I realized that there was a point that I was going to have to walk every single day and I couldn't take breaks, I was going to have to change that date a little bit with the weather and stuff like that. So I pushed that 13 days back to my drug-free day, April 12th. And then I changed the location to make it a little bit easier. And everything happens for a reason. I've been to La Push. It's a bit smaller of a town, and the reception probably wouldn't have been as huge as it was.
Yeah.
As I come around the corner in Long Beach, Washington, they have a sign that says the world's longest beach. There's an arch. And I go around the corner, and there was like anywhere from 50 to 100 people there with You Matter signs and all of this stuff. Just blew my mind. And they all went with me to put my feet in the Pacific Ocean. It was an epic moment. So after I took that break, I realized that I still wanted to go see La Push because I changed my ending location, and that's, it's got the Twilight thing. I wasn't a huge Twilight person, but it has that thing. So it's cool, just say you've been to those kind of places.
For sure.
So I decided that I was going to walk up to La Push, then up to Cape of Lava, because my buddy Isaiah Glenn Shield, who did 8,600 miles across the country, now backpacking Europe on foot, epic journey. He had actually hit Cape of Lava, which is the most western point of the United States. So I was like, I want to hit that point too. So I did that. And then I went up to Cape Flattery and Nia Bay to hit the most northwestern point. I really don't remember the exact date, but it was August of last year, just like this month, pretty much. So after that, I was like, hey, I'm not done. I met some bikers that were in Forks, Washington, and they were talking about how they were biking all four corners. They were boxing America, basically. And I was now I might not do the whole top part, but I want to walk to all four corners of America. And that being said, for anybody wondering, that's contiguous United States, the lower 48. I'm not talking about walking Alaska or Hawaii, but with the lower 48, that's going to be the most northwestern point, southwestern point, which I just completed on August 4th, the entire West Coast from Cape Flattery all the way down, just not on the shoreline, but the Pacific Coast Highway, Highway 101, California 1, some little roads in between there, Avenue of the Giants through the redwoods and things like that. And it's been quite the journey to finish at Borderfield State Park. Unfortunately, the most southwestern point is on the beach, and that's a closed area, but I was able to make it to the entrance of the park on August 4th. So now I'm taking a break. Just got to spend a little time with my girlfriend second week of September. Nice. I picked back up in San Diego, Imperial Beach Pier. Getting ready to do part 3 of this journey, walking coast to coast through the southern states, going to hit Vegas, Grand Canyon, the Forrest Gump Point, the Four Corner Monument, and then back to Jacksonville Beach, Florida, where I originally started my feet in the Atlantic Ocean, January 1st, 2022. Just because that's where I started, and that's where I want to finish a coast to coast, because that's where I'm from, basically. Right. And then I will zigzag Florida down to the Keys, and then the East Coast all the way up to the West Quaddy Lighthouse in Lubec, Maine, to do all four corners of the United States.
Man, that blows my mind. Like the stuff you've seen, the stuff you've experienced, like I'm mind blown by your willingness to just keep putting one foot in front of the other. I mean, that is kind of the emphasis of life. It's just like, why stop? I mean, if you would have stopped at just that, it would have been a great story, but look at all the things you would have missed. Does that make sense? Things you wouldn't have experienced. I mean, I can't imagine, like you said, walking through like the flat pancake states of Kansas, then all of a sudden, months later to be walking through the land of giants with these redwoods. Like, dude, if you would have stayed put in Florida, you would never have seen any of this stuff, man. Like, I don't think we realize how much is out there, but we have to have enough, I guess, motivation to move towards it, right? I mean, it's kind of amazing when I look at like your ability to say, I'm not done yet. And dude, you might get to the other corner up in Maine somewhere and be like, I'm not done yet. There's something, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't know. How has it been to have that open mindset of like, I'm going to do what my heart's telling me, not what the brain's like convincing me to do?
It's really not as hard as you would think. I mean, the labor of walking, I don't work a typical 9 to 5, but don't get me wrong. I put a lot of labor and pressure on my body to go through what I do. But it's all worth it. Because at the end of the day, I'm getting exercise. Walking is the best form of exercise to not overwear yourself too much. Mm-hmm. I'm not running and wearing myself down for 30 miles. I can keep my own pace. I can slow when I want and things like that. But the reception of the people, the sites I get to see, the opportunities that get offered because you're doing something that people dream about doing, but not a lot of people take the initiative to go do. It's one of those things. My last time in prison, whenever I changed my life, it boiled down to I came across a statement that a person's only as good as their word and their word's only as good as their action. Of course, everything doesn't always happen 100%, and that's where communication is key. I used to talk about all these things that I would want to do or that I'm going to do, even when it came to recovery and telling my family what they wanted to hear, this, that, and the other, but never actually living up to what I was saying. There was no integrity behind it. You know, I could make it look good. I could put on a front for a while and people would be like, oh, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. But then, you know, a couple weeks later, I'm back in jail. I was like, I thought I was proud of you, but honestly, it was what I thought it was the whole time, because I was never really getting right. I was just trying to make it look right and just trying to hide it a little bit better. And now it's not like that. You know, now when people say that they're proud of me, it's cool and it's good. But when I can look in the mirror and say that I'm proud of myself, that's what really matters. So to have the reception, to have thousands of people either just stop me on the side of the road or reach out on Facebook and say, hey, like, we want to meet you, or to walk by a store in a town and somebody walk out smiling and screaming my name, it makes you not want to quit. It makes you want to keep going because you know that if it's going to be similar like that everywhere, you're pretty much welcomed everywhere you go. And the fact that you get to see people smile and make a positive impact. I have bad days and stressful days. I'm on my live stream stressing and getting angry at traffic and stuff, and people still get excited to see me even through that. And it's just, dude, it's a huge blessing. But to hear all the stories, or to, so specifically walking across America for mental health and recovery, because too many people are losing their lives daily to drug overdose and suicide or things like that, mental health and recovery issues. To hear the people stop you on the side of the road and share stuff, and they say, I'll probably never tell anybody that again, but I just felt like I could tell you.
Yeah, man.
It really makes you feel special in a way. But at the same time, I've also come from the beginning of the journey. Mental health and recovery has always been the forefront of the journey, but my mindset hasn't always been 100% in the right spot, maybe like 95%. Right. But I've had percents where I did get too cocky. People from my past, I would see them on Facebook doing some of the wrong things, and I would call them out on it, but it wasn't my place to. And I'd have to catch myself. I ruined some relationships since I started this journey because I got a little too cocky at first. I realized as the journey grows, the less cocky I don't need to be cocky, because it could really end for me at any given moment. But just to experience all the cool sights, man, for people to reach out, like when I came through right before I met y'all, I was walking through Moab, Utah. Tandem-based Moab says, hey, we love your journey. We want to take you jumping off a 400-foot cliff.
Awesome.
Stuff like that makes you want to keep going. And it's not just me. Anybody that were to put themselves in my shoes, if you can handle the physical part, there's a mental part too. It's self-dedication, self-motivation. Not every day I'm walking, I want to walk. Some days I'm like, oh my gosh, I still got 10 miles to go. This has been the worst day ever. But after I hit that 9.9 mile mark, I'm like, I'm in single digits now. After I hit that next mile, it's only 8 miles left, only 7, only 6. And then we push. Every time it's the last mile. It don't matter how many miles I'm doing. That last mile is always the hardest of the day because your mind knows that you're about to have an accomplishment.
It's trying to shut down before you get there. But see,
sorry, I rambled so much.
No, dude, I love it. That's why you're here, man. Is being able to practice like effective relationship building, because you kind of have no other, like, I think, I guess excuse, but to not build relationships, because you not only rely on a lot of people out there, to get, I guess for all kinds of things. It's about connecting with those who significantly need what your message, meaning they might have lost somebody. They have somebody out there that's still struggling right now. Like, you bring a lot of just, I don't know, just like, I guess, faith and trust and hope, because their loved ones was you once. And so if they're like, man, if this guy can do this and he can show up and talk about mental health and addiction and show up to do this every day, maybe there's hope for my loved one. There's got to be those kind of emotional conversations where they're either telling you about someone that they love that's passed or someone that's out there struggling right now. Like, do you realize the amount of hope that you give people that like recovery really is about putting one foot in front of the other? You've had to have a credible amount of stories, even since I saw you last. Like, do you realize how much hope you're spreading?
I will never be able to comprehend or understand or even know how many people have been impacted in a positive way from this journey. I get messages all the time, almost on a daily basis. My inbox is flooded with people sharing their stories or saying how inspiring this journey is or something like that. I do a daily prayer almost every morning on my page, but in that prayer, I specifically say like, you know, God, thank you for allowing me to be a vessel on this journey, because it's not about me. It's about you. It's about mental health and recovery. 100%. And it could be taken away from me at any given time. I'm not the only person with the recovery story that can go walk and spread a positive message, but I have been blessed with the opportunity to come out here and do it. So to keep my mind focused on the right things, the fact that people are able to share that type of stuff is a special thing, because I'm not a licensed therapist, but people vent to me like I'm a therapist. And I will say it takes a toll on me some days. Some days I get overwhelmed and exhausted. But just to see that people want to reach out makes you just want to keep going, even through the exhaustion. But it's always worth it. But it's not about me. It's about all of us. It's a collective situation. It's about positivity and being a light in dark places. And it's weird because this journey, so many people really do have good hearts. For sure. Just not everybody knows how to show it.
Yeah, it's maybe on a sync and on a rhythm, but it all beats the same amount. Yeah.
Exactly. So, you know, I've been in communities where somebody's blessed the journey. I've taken a picture with them and somebody else from that community says, wow, that's the last person I would expect you to have a picture with. And I'm like, you know, it makes you like, okay, but hey, at least they were there and at least they did something. So they were affected in a positive way. Maybe that could do something in their life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not
though. Look at that picture for a minute, because one thing you said last night in the men's group that kind of stuck out to me was how universally similar we all are. Right. And if you think about it, my own perspective on addiction, it's kind of unique to me. And I think that people that struggle with addiction, they have hearts that are way too big. And people that have family members or loved ones that in there, like, no, how can you say that? They're the most conceited, selfish, cheating kind of people. But it's like, you look at it, what it truly authentically means. It means that they have the capacity to carry incredible amounts of pain. They carry their own pain. They carry their friends' pains, their family's pains, and they just carry it all because they don't want their loved ones to carry it themselves. They have a very interesting perspective on the pain and trauma of the experience of addiction and maybe history. And so when all of a sudden they're carrying everyone's stuff and they don't want anyone to hurt, but they start to buckle, that's when addiction flows in. They've got to numb it. And so I look at what you said about how universally similar so many of the stories are, even though they're unique people and perspectives. The theme is like this epidemic, this problem we have in America is people suppressing the pain. And you probably meet an incredible amount of people, some who have had like success in overcoming addictions, some that are currently battling it, and some people that are carrying the message of the individual who passed away. That theme, do you find that to be the case? Like, you know what, if we could let go of some of that stigma and authentically love the people that are out there, can you imagine what would happen? I'm not saying love means enable, but I'm saying like give some compassion, give some understanding. Can you imagine what would happen? You've probably seen that.
So many people that struggle with addiction, myself included, whether they are or not, feel alienated, feel like they're alone and all that stuff. I don't know how true it is, but it sounded really legit. I just heard this little thing about a science project that was done with rats. They have a single rat and they put it in a cage, and then they have two tubes of water, one with just water, one with like heroin laced water. The rat pretty much every time will go back to the heroin laced water until it kills itself, basically. But they also put numerous rats in the same exact cage with the water and the heroin, and they said the heroin was never really touched. Yeah. Because they had community, they had people around them, they had support, they weren't alone, they had
Yeah. You talk about the Rat Park study. Absolutely. The community is what brought that healing. And like, I don't need this when I've got this. And those rats, they don't make judgment. They're not like, hey, you're a jerk because you've been hanging out around that heroin water, right? They're like, dude, you don't need that. Come over here. Which is kind of interesting. Does that say that rats can be more sociable than humans? Sometimes, right?
Yep.
Sometimes.
But we have the capability to do it too.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with an intellectual mind that we have, we can take it to the next level, not just, okay, you have an issue. Like there's so many different solutions that with access to technology, you can Google 10,000 different solutions.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many different things that'll help different people in different ways. I guess one of the things that is hard to talk about when it comes to recovery is, even though we are so similar, everybody is different. Not everybody recovers the same way.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And even with addiction's not always substance abuse. That's one of the main things that's talked about. Before I ever knew what drugs were, I was addicted to lying, stealing, and porn at a very, very young age. I was stealing credit cards, buying all this stuff on the internet because my mom worked at an Atlantic self-storage, and there was all these people across seas that couldn't come in and pay their thing. I had access to a credit card book. I was 12 years old with I was going to church giving out people information to the wrong kinds of websites.
For sure, man.
And you know, I'm not proud of it, but that drop brought me down drastically. And then when I mixed drugs with it and then meeting people that were gangbanging in the thug lifestyle, I wasn't just your typical like user. Like whether I was on drugs or not, I was breaking into houses, kicking in doors, thought I was a gangster. Like, you give me an address, I was the guy to pull up. Whether I got my butt beat or not, I didn't care. I thought I was that guy, man. I thought I was. Now, having that kind of heart, turning my life around, I've been able to pursue so much in life with so much drive, and I'm so thankful for that.
Dude,
and I know I'm getting sidetracked.
No, you're not, though. It is. It's that same thing. Just that universal love that we have for ourselves.
But community, having love for each other. I think I mentioned this last night too, that I think I was in Santa Barbara or something. I was just outside on my phone, just right outside my hotel room, and there was a dude that walked by and just was like, "Have a nice day." It was just so random. And I look up and he has a duffel bag, and you could tell he was part of the unhoused community, and he didn't look so great. And I was like, "Hey, bro, you matter." And he turned around and just like looked confused for a second. And then he stopped and he pointed, he said, "You matter." And then like we started up a conversation. Dude had a gnarly black eye. You could tell he had just got jumped or something. And then he hugs me and says, "Thanks for talking to me." Like I've talked to plenty of people, don't get me wrong, but that one really, really stuck out. Like this dude with the black eye and everything, who said to me, "Have a nice day" first, said, "Thank you for talking to me." Sometimes people just need an ear, or somebody to listen, or somebody just to tell them that they matter, whether you have a conversation with them or not. And that's something that I've learned. There's a lot of people that are out there seeking the truth, but don't know where to find it. And so many people are looking for the truth in the media and things like that. And that's not where you'll find it. The truth is real life experience, going out and doing it yourself.
Beautiful.
You know, there's so much that people want me to do, or say, "Hey, you need to do this," or "What are you even doing for mental?" I just had a comment and I went to go respond, and the dude blocked me before I could respond. But he said, "Yes, I understand that everybody matters." He was like, "But what are you actually doing for mental health and recovery?" And I'm like, so I understand, you know, maybe I'm not in every single group that's in every town that I'm going through. Maybe I'm not stopping in every unhoused community talking to everybody there. But at the end of the day, addiction and depression don't discriminate on age, race, gender, where you grew up, the school you went to, how much money you have in your pocket, the car you drive, the shoes you wear, anything like that. From the poorest unhoused communities to the richest communities, to every single country all over the world, there is an addiction and a depression problem. And it can happen to anybody. That's why we just got to love each other with community, man. But
Absolutely.
if there's ever anything that people think that I could or should do, this is where community is so important. I want to encourage y'all to go out in your own communities and do those same exact things, because as one person, I can make an impact, but I can't change the world. But if we all came together, we could make it different in a better way. We really could. And we have the possibility and the capability to do that.
See, and that's the interesting principle about this relationship building. You know, it's kind of interesting. You're going where your feet are taking you. And I know you've got somewhat of a plan and whatnot, but like you said, you don't know what you're going to find, who you're going to see. And so when you bump into some of those people that don't understand or don't get it, the tendency is to kind of meet that with skepticism and frustration and even anger. And I've seen you be the recipient of that. And to a certain extent, I hope I'm not speaking out of line, you are a safe person for people to be mad at because you're not going to retaliate against them. Does that make sense? Like as a therapist, when I'm working with somebody and they get upset because I might be asking some sensitive questions or whatnot, and they kind of bark at me a little bit, they kind of get this look on their face like, oh man, maybe I've just ruined this relationship. And I always tell them, I'm a safe person for you to be mad at because I care about you. I'm not going to judge you. It's a hard thing because I've seen some of those people, but those are the people that have been hurt in a way that they don't know how to process, right? And so they project it onto you, do that guerrilla warfare tactic where they come in and attack and then block you. And it's like your heart, I know you because we've kind of talked about this even off camera, even last time, which was you yearn for them a little bit. I mean, last time you were here, you kind of got stiffed by somebody that was making some promises and whatnot, and you're upset because of the situation. But then you're like, I get it. I understand. Things kind of have a funny way of working out. So you're a safe person for people to be mad at. But when they do that, it reflects back on something that's happened to them that they're like, well, here's a person that will listen to me, and you will, because that's what you do. I'm so thankful you're like what I do and not take it personal. It's like the person's hurting. It's hard. I know it. You get to be the villain in someone else's story, which is like, wow, offending people without even knowing it. But that's not on you. That's something inside their heart.
And you know what? I can't say it's always been like that even since I started this journey. Mm-hmm. And some days I'd say some moments it's not like that. I'm a very hot-headed, angry, convicted felon. And you know, I've changed so much and I've come so far, but some days I do have those moments where I might not lash out the right way, or I might not respond the right way, but I have learned now I will never attack anybody anymore. In the first half of this journey, like I had mentioned earlier, that I had got a little cocky and I would put people in this place where people would say something to me and I just tell them about themselves. I would go through their profile, find something I didn't like and tell them about themselves. But I've been shown so much grace and mercy from so many different people, from my family to the court systems to every different thing, that I shouldn't be standing here today. God's shown me so much grace and mercy just from trying to take my life and overdosing so many times, and just all the crimes I've committed. I should probably be in jail a lot longer than I have been. And totally just lost my train of thought. So sorry.
No, you're fine.
What was the question?
You've answered it, but I want to add this part to it. Because, you know, when people kind of come at you and it's their stuff that they're kind of harboring, I like to make sure that we understand the difference between our character and our reputation, right? Like people might like visualize, you know, what you're doing and find some kind of flaw with it and pick apart a reputation. But when they sit and talk to you, that's where the character comes out. That's where it's like, oh man, this dude gets it. Like all he's doing is walking as an ambassador and as proxy for my loved ones who's passed away. Like, does that make sense? Like,
oh, absolutely.
To put that on you, I mean, it's wild, but you can see the difference between your reputation versus your character. And when it's one-on-one, that's where people, I think, let down some of that guard of like, oh, there's some authenticity here. I was wrong. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think your character and reputation, they are the most powerful things you've got, but I've seen them with you mix very well. Does that make sense? Like you are who you say you are.
And I continually grow through it. I've learned to, so it's weird because the amount of hate versus the amount of support is so minimal. I would say literally 1% to 2% between 98 to 99%.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of followers between my pages that have called me out on it numerous times. Like, why do you engage with the negative and not with the positive? Because people say, thank you for what you do all the time, or we love your journey all the time. And there's so many of those comments that it's so hard for me to respond, thank you, or you're welcome, over and over and over again. Whereas somebody lashes out at me, I can turn around and comment a whole paragraph to explain what I'm doing in a respectful way, tell this person and let them know that they are mattered and loved and cared about too. And for anybody that questions what I'm doing or feeds off of that negative comment that they had about me, there's a lesson to be learned. That's how I see it. A lot of people think that it's just engaging with hate. It's not necessarily that. There's a lesson to be learned on both parties. And I learn how to speak. I also, because I do let that stuff affect me more than it should.
Yeah.
I do get upset way more than I should. But I've also learned not to allow, even though I'm upset and even though I will respond, not to respond with cussing somebody out or putting them down or making them feel like they're less. But normally it does boil down to whatever you're going through to make you want to lash out at me. I'm sorry, and I hope it gets better. And I've been able to do that numerous times. Not every single time is like that. Sometimes I get a little worked up more than others, but every single day for every one of us, there's nothing but room for growth and improvement.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's just life.
Yeah, well, it's a choice to be offended. And one thing I've learned is that whenever you have a platform like you've got, like I have with Addict to Athlete, with the numerous people that we come in contact with, that you're going to have those naysayers. And it's a basic human condition to pick out the negative. I mean, that's what we do. Unfortunately, you walk into any room or situation, the first thing you're going to do is find the flaws. And that sucks. But that goes back to like primitive mindsets. That's the stuff that keeps us safe. It's like a self-preservation thing. So the hard part comes when you allow that to dictate everything. So you see a person and you immediately rush to the flaws or whatnot. You look in the mirror and the first thing you see is the flaws. It takes a massive amount of emotional training to start seeing the beauty in that. And I think that through this journey, Kyndal, you've done that. Like you've had to, because you've had to see the good in people. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, but you see more people that are, I'm going to say, genuine, mainstream, middle of the line than you do see millionaires coming out and billionaires. And you see the real people of this country. Does that make sense? Don't get me wrong. I'm sure you sprinkled some people that are very high profile, whatnot, but like the people that are coming out to greet you are the people like us. Does that make sense?
Yeah, every day is the normal people, man. And it's the normal people.
So when you get, like we said last night, when you get the mindset that everyone out there is going to wrong you, rob you, steal from you, put you down, you're like, but wait a minute, I've been across the country, down the other side. I don't see it like that. You're seeing a very different perspective to the human condition and America. Are you noticing that we're a lot more similar than we are different?
That's a good question. I'd have to think about that one.
Think about that. We talked about this last night. We're like, political crap aside, I'm talking about day-to-day people. Like,
absolutely. I think everybody wants to be loved. Everybody really wants the truth, whether they want to believe the truth or not. Everybody really does seek the truth. Most people want, the typical American dream to have, a spouse, a house, a little white picket fence in the front yard kind of thing. Some people want to live life solo. When it comes down to the similarities, it's the only thing guaranteed in every single one of our lives from the day of birth is death.
Yeah. Good point.
Any single one of us breaks skin, we're going to bleed the color red, even though our blood's apparently blue on the inside of our body with oxygen.
They say. I still have my doubts about
I'm
that.
so confused about
that was a wise tale. Yeah,
I think so
too. You're right. We bleed red.
But people have different taste in things. But I don't really know anybody that doesn't like music. I don't know anybody that has a fridge without liquids to drink or foods to eat, unless they're struggling or something like that. But just in general, hygiene products in every household I've ever been into across the states, the typical things. We all do the similar things. We all, I hope so, but we all bathe and shower. We all brush our teeth, different things like that. We all put on our clothes one leg at a time, just like the next person. Don't matter how much money you got in your pocket, what kind of status you have. We are so similar. And that's where it really, it's heartbreaking to see all the hate for absolutely no reason, just because somebody looks some type of way or dresses some type of way or listens to a different type of music. Because at the end of the day, That's somebody's family member. That's somebody's son or somebody's daughter or somebody's father or mother.
They matter.
Et cetera. And every single one of us matters. Not everybody's got to grow up. I was put it like this. I grew up in a good household.
Mhm.
My parents are still together. Not everybody has that. A lot of people grow up in broken households. I've met the girl that her mom at 13 years old put the needle in her arm with heroin the first time. You know what I'm saying? Both of her parents died of drug overdoses, and she's overdosed so many times, doesn't know why she's here, never went to a rehab, never went to any support, and just one day wanted to get right just because she didn't want to go down that path anymore.
Yeah.
And then, I've met the people that have all the resources in the world, the millionaire families, that have put their kids in rehab 15 times and give them all of this, that, and the other, and will buy them a brand new Ferrari if they could be clean for a year. They just don't want it.
Yeah.
And
it's universal, man.
yeah,
It's all universal. That's what I love about what we're doing here. Like the only thing that we can do, me as a therapist, as a coach, you as a coach, and as a testimony to recovery, all we can do is show up and like show people. That's it. We can't convince you. We can't talk you into it. We can't force. It's you know what? We see a better way doing this. How about you join us? I think the cool thing too you discussed last night, if you don't mind maybe discussing it a little bit too, was your Golden Gate Bridge experience. Because of the significance of like not just the act of walking across, but like what happened there, because you bridged a few more emotional, I think, gaps then too. Tell the listeners a little bit about that experience, because I remember when you were approaching that, and it was kind of an amazing experience just for the symbolic aspects of it.
So as I was approaching the Golden Gate Bridge, it looked like with my number days, I only count the days I walk on the days I walk. So right now I'm paused on day 570. But with that happening, I was like, yo, it would be really cool to like nail this on day 500 since I'm getting so close. So I timed that just right to also hit on my 31st birthday, March 30th this year. So in this banner, I'll discuss it again here in a little bit, but just to put it in a perspective, this banner right here is 1,800 names of people that have lost their lives to drug overdose and or suicide, mental health and or recovery issues. And I'll explain that a little more in a minute. But that being said, between 1,800 or 1,900 people have jumped off of the Golden Gate Bridge to commit suicide and have died. Only 39 people have lived. One of those people is Kevin Hines, who I actually heard his story while I was out on the journey, and I fell in love with his story. It was just so real impactful. And I had tagged him like in numerous different posts and tried to get a bunch of people to tag him to come out and walk across with me. Unfortunately, he had a lot going on. I'm sure he's being reached out. He has a book out and doing all different types of events. So I never actually heard back from him, but somebody else sent me a video of a guy who was doing some pretty dark comedy, stand-up comedy about jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge, but he was talking about his personal experience. His name's Thornton McKay. Well, somebody reaches out and says, hey, the last person to jump off of the Golden Gate Bridge, he wants to come out here and walk with you. I was like, bring him out. He came out. So I push a cart, and I could have actually ended up pushing my cart, but you're not supposed to push carts across the bridge. So I have a big sign that says Walking Across America at the bottom. And then I have another one that says You Matter. I held up the You Matter sign. He carried the Walking Across America. So a lot of people actually asked him if he was the one walking across America. He's like, no, this dude is, but I'm the one that jumped off the bridge. He was so open about it. It was insane. It was just such a realistic thing for him to be like, oh, hey guys, come over here. This is where I jumped. He's came to terms with it and has overcome that to be able to walk that bridge like that, but to share.
That's a true erase and replace moment right there.
Absolutely. This man jumped off the bridge when he did. I don't remember how many ribs he broke, but I think he said he broke a few ribs that punctured his lungs and stuff like that. And just recovered and just wanted to do stand-up comedy about it.
That's the thing too, right? Is he would never have had that opportunity. Like he's one of these guys that like instantly regrets what's happened once that those feet left that situation. And I've talked to people that have had accidental overdoses and even like purpose overdoses that have survived, and they're like, that was that was truly scary. Like I see something bigger for myself now. And so to come out there and to be able to find, it might seem funny to some people, but to find some dark humor in it, it's also that coping mechanism that allowed him to do that again and to be able to share that and be like, man, like all these people that are with you now would have never have met me if. So I think that's kind of an amazing, like, I don't know, just, another blip on your story here, because you've got so many of those. Like,
I mean, what?
Quite wild.
As of like the ending of 2022, we hit over 8 billion people in the population in the world.
Yeah.
So out of 8 billion people, for 39 out of 39 people, 1 out of 39 to come and get in touch with me over something so special as walking across a bridge that so many people jump off to take their lives. It was his jumping off that I think actually got the suicide net into play, which they pretty much have over most of the bridge now, which is absolutely incredible. So, I mean, if you jump and you get caught, you kind of get that feeling, because one of Kevin Hines' things is he talks about the instant his feet left from that bridge, he regretted it.
Yeah.
And when he hit the water, I think he shattered both of his legs, went 70 feet under. If I'm not mistaken, it was like a sea lion or a harbor seal that actually kept him afloat while the Coast Guard was rescuing him. A year later, for anybody that's not familiar with the story, a year later, his dad takes him back to the same exact post for him to, get closure. There was a special flower that had some type of special meaning. They threw it over, and they said right when the flower hits the water, the harbor seal comes up from the water.
Holy
and like,
cow.
just like talk about closure just for something like that. But not everybody gets the opportunity to come back from something like that. As somebody who has tried to take my life twice, and I shouldn't be here. Not everybody does get to come back from that, and it's a real thing. And it's, once again, our family members, our loved ones, our cared ones, our spouses, our best friends, and in the last 3 or 4 years, those numbers have been skyrocketing.
Absolutely, man. And that's, I don't know, brother, that's the emotional parts of this kind of stuff. And so I would imagine on the days that you feel like, I don't want to walk, I don't want to do this, but you end up doing it. It's that kind of push, because you never know who's going to be at the other end of that journey that needs to see you, needs to be with you. I mean, I think there are no coincidences. So I think every person that comes in contact with us is placed there by some kind of divine purpose. And I'm sure you've seen those too. I mean, you've been through weather and storms and scary roads and sketchy locations, and yet you press on. It's like, that forward march to that horizon. I don't know if I talked about this last time you were here, but whenever we're on a big journey like this, I remember when I was doing my first ultra run, it was on the Pony Express. There's a location in the middle of this Pony Express trail where it's a dirt road in the middle of flipping nowhere, Utah. And as far as you can see is the same kind of scenery. It says dirt road right down the middle. And I remember thinking, I'm never going to get to that horizon. And a good friend of mine taught me about the principle about being in the gap. He's like, you're never going to make it to the horizon. You won't either. Even though you get these destinations, those are just monuments and markers. Our horizons never change, because once you've seen this, once you reach the horizon, it freaking changes. You're like, holy crap, I thought this was the end, but it's not, right? It keeps going. So each time you get to that horizon, it changes. And so you're never truly going to get there, but you can always turn around and see how far you've come. Like, I had to be crazy when you put your feet in the Pacific Ocean, looked at how far you've come, but then like, I'm not done yet, right? So really, you're always kind of in the middle, which means that's your story. The hard parts, guess where they are? In the middle, right? Stories start off amazing. There's a hard part in the middle, and they finish fantastically. So if you're having a hard part right now, congratulations, you're in the middle. How's it feel to still be in the middle?
Just take some time to live a little in the middle.
Yeah, man.
No, it's always, man, honestly, I thrive off of struggle.
Yeah.
I strive going through the hard times because they show me who I am. What is it? Everybody wants to be on the mountaintop, but food and stuff doesn't really grow on the mountaintop. You have to go back through the valley to sustain.
Yep.
It's never going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it. But challenges is what make us who we are. Growing pains is a part of life. Working out. Whenever you work out and you get bigger and you get stronger and your muscle grows, you're tearing your muscle. You're getting sore in the process. When you're growing up from a child and you get taller and your arms get longer, you literally get things called growing pains.
Yeah.
It's a part of life. It's not always going to feel the best. Sometimes it's about getting out of that comfort zone. When I tell you getting out of my comfort zone is another, like struggling, I literally thrive on it because I get to see what I'm capable of. Because at the end of the day, I'm not guaranteed to even go to sleep and wake up tomorrow.
Yeah.
Every single day I'm on the side of the road, I pass hundreds, sometimes thousands of cars, and all it takes is one person not looking.
Some of them get a little close. I've seen video of you.
There's been some sketchy close calls, man. But at the end of the day, every time you make it to that destination or you complete something, you complete a workout, you finish something that you went out to start, there's a sense of accomplishment. For me with recovery, I personally believe that to have a good recovery, you have to have a good mental health.
Yep.
You have to work on your mental health because that's yourself. That's taking care of yourself and loving yourself. You know, a lot of people like the idea of wanting to get clean. They just don't want to give up the substance itself, but want everything around it. When you love yourself enough, you know what you got to do. You know, some people, meetings work for some people. Meetings don't work for some people. I used to be court ordered to meetings all the time, and I used to get high in the parking lots right after the meetings with other people that were court ordered right after we got our papers signed. Working out was a big part of mine. Exercise was a big part of mine, but it was also getting in touch with my faith and meditating, focusing on my mind. I stopped reading books in prison. Well, novels. I stopped reading novels at a certain point and would only read mind elevating books.
Brilliant.
One of the people, I could tell you something that I read about that a lot of people probably don't know, 50 Cent, the rapper. That man doesn't really drink or smoke or anything. Like when he goes to parties and they have champagne glasses, I think he says that he has apple juice or something in a champagne glass.
I've read
he
that.
said that he likes to be the most focused person in the room. He likes to have his mind right. You know, a lot of people could talk about all this, that, and the other, but what are you really doing?
Yeah.
And that's what it really boils down to. Having focus is so important. Don't let me get sidetracked again.
I love it. I love it though. You're spot on, and I think that's kind of the key to a lot of this is you just got to show up for yourself. Like a lot of times when we fall into those patterns, it's because we're trying to be something that we're not. We're trying to face something that we don't think we can. We're stronger than we think we are, and all we need to do is flip and show up for ourselves. And then that allows you to show up for others, which is kind of the name of the game here, right? None of us do this stuff alone.
Absolutely. And if you ever question that your mind's not stronger than you think it is or whatever, I might have said that backwards. I don't know. But if you're physically capable, I want you to try this test. Especially if you can do a set of 10 push-ups easy or 20 or 30 push-ups, whatever it is. Tell yourself that's how many you're going to do and see what number you get tired at. The very next day, do 10 more than that and see where you get tired at. I learned that I can do sets of 50 push-ups, but if I tell myself I'm going to do sets of 20, I'm going to get tired at 15.
Absolutely.
Because my mind tells me that the ending point is getting close and it's preparing to wind itself down.
Don't limit yourself.
We can go so much harder than an example. I remember this from prison. Whenever I started working out in prison, I worked out with the most elite squad on our compound. These guys did burpees all day long. These guys went so hard. They started almost every workout with a nice run and ended with a leg day and then a run.
Oh my
in an intense core workout. These guys went so hard that I would watch people over a whole year. I would watch people go out there for one day and never go back again because these guys were so intense. I had gained a lot of weight. My nickname became Bad Bodied Kindle. People would call me BBK in prison.
That's funny.
And I didn't like that. I didn't like it at all. And it was all boiled around the time of me getting in an argument with a dude who was trying to give me free drugs. And we argued over something different. I was like, you can just keep that. My dad had came to visit me after like 2.5 years of being on bad terms. He came to visit me in prison. And I think subconsciously that with the other thing, exactly a week later after my dad visit, that's my clean date.
Beautiful.
You know what I'm saying? But I started working out with this group. The first time I went out there and ran a mile with them, I think I ran like a 12-minute mile or something like that. The fastest mile I ever ran with them was 5 minutes and 57 seconds.
Ooh,
In a matter of
nice.
I think that was less than a year. I think that was about 6 months of training with them. I pushed myself that hard. I lost so much weight so fast that my nickname went from BBK to Roger from American Dad because my head was too big for my body and I haven't filled into it right. And that's for real. It's a funny thing, but these guys pushed me so hard and they wouldn't let me give up. But there was one day, and this was after I was already really good. You know, I was top level, feeling like that dude. But there was one day that we were almost done with the workout, and I made a comment about, hey, can we stop by the water fountain? He's like, oh, you want water? Heck no. Blah, blah, blah. And he ran us for another couple miles, made us do all this workout, and everybody was mad at me and they were getting exhausted, but I was right behind him the whole time, keeping up with it. You know what I'm saying? Like I was ready, but I was also always ready to grind. And I think working out with those guys and the way they pushed me in there definitely played a vital role for me being able to push myself the way I do on this journey. Because I push myself hard some days.
Dude, that's kind of amazing. Being able to align yourself with that group inside of a place that you don't think would like be inspiring. Does that make sense?
Oh, exactly. Man, my second highest climb on this journey was over 1,900 feet in a day.
Oh man.
And this was in a 22-mile period. And the thing that sucked about this is on my GPS, I had set a point, and this is in California. This is when you go from Highway 101 to the Pacific Coast Highway on California 1. It's called Leggett, California, right near the drive-through chandelier cheer. And all you have to do is go on your GPS, look at the maps, and you could see how crazy the road is. It is the windiest, most insane road ever. And a lot of people told me, hey, you'll be good.
There it goes, right?
Like, that thing you were talking about.
Told you.
And a lot of people are like, hey, dude, there's not a lot of traffic this time of year. You're going on that road. You should be good. Well, I walked it on a Tuesday. Something happened over a weekend. And the day before, they sent out like 30 semis hauling rocks in groups of 4, like 20 miles back and forth this road. So on this road, like every few minutes, on a really tight, narrow road, nothing but elevation gains. I had to dodge all these semi trucks, dude.
Pucker up.
But 15 miles, that was my goal that day. I made it to that 15-mile mark, and there was people there to pick me up. And I thought the coast was right around the corner, and they're like, hey, the ocean's actually probably about another 4 or so miles. Do you want to complete it? And I was like, I really did want to make it to the coast, but are y'all okay with waiting? That's going to take me at least another hour. So they're like, we don't mind. Like, we're out here for you. I said, okay, bet. After I knew it was 4 miles, I was like, I'm not there yet. And I don't have reception. So I tried to send them a message that didn't go through. I'm like, hey, this is more than 4 miles. It ended up being like another 7 miles.
Yeah, there's just a distance, not quite there.
But when I made it to that coast, it was all worth it.
100%.
Like I mentioned, all those hard things are worth it. Every challenge is worth it. Life is not always going to be easy, but it's about trying to tackle it with a positive mindset. Chase those dreams. Don't, so many people talk about the things that they want to do, but don't sacrifice or set aside the things that they know that they need to do to make it happen. Don't get me wrong. I had a lot of fun on the West Coast and I got to do a lot of cool stuff, but because of the walk and stuff itself, I hit almost every single beach from the top of Washington down to San Diego, California, and barely put my feet in the Pacific Ocean maybe 3 times.
Love it. So good.
Because I was so focused on what I had to do. I sacrificed doing some of the fun extra stuff I wanted to do. Not every time, but sometimes I did because there was more important things to do.
Yeah. Don't get distracted, right?
Exactly. I get offered more opportunities than I can take. But I have to also sacrifice and be willing to give up some things that I want to make the entirety of what I want or the dream that I'm chasing the most, which is walking to all 4 corners of the United States of America for mental health awareness and recovery. And I want to get there safely. I'm not going to be able to do everything I want to do. It took me sacrificing leaving my house, well, not my house, I'm not a homeowner, but my parents' house, places to live, a full-time job, and all of that to go out and walk, not knowing what I was going to experience, through going through the Rockies in Colorado in the winter.
Jeez.
Because I had a hernia surgery that I had to stop this journey for 2 months to go out there to walk through the snow. I went through the highest incorporated city in North America, which is Leadville, Colorado at 10,200 feet. And I had negative 11 degree weather.
I've been to Leadville. Yeah, that
beautiful area.
That's David Clark's like little stomping ground there. you can't breathe up there. That's heaven.
It's intense. Actually, the pass coming out of that, I think it was called the Tennessee Pass, was so iced over that I actually had to get driven out
I
of
can't
Leadville.
picture you walking through them because it's in the middle of nowhere, like at the top of every. Oh my gosh!
Oh, dude, I had snow pants on, ski goggles, Carhartt.
Florida
People were
boy,
giving me all
man.
this stuff. When I went back to Colorado after the surgery, I had a hoodie, and Paige was like, "You got to let me buy you a jacket." I was like, "I got a hoodie. I got like thermals. I'll be okay."
Dude.
She bought me a decent jacket, but it wasn't even like a winter jacket, and it was a lady who actually talked me out of walking through Breckenridge in the snow to go a different route because of how dangerous it was. She drove me up to her house. Actually, we almost slipped in the snow. It was terrifying. I'm never in a car. She gets me in a car, drives me up this mountain. Like we slide and almost hit a tree going to her house.
She's like, I do this every Thursday.
She's like, oh, my bad. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is nuts. Dude, she gives me like her late husband's big like army snow pants with like they were like super
like bibs,
extra large with the suspenders on them, like a Carhartt hoodie, a Carhartt jacket, beanies, and all this stuff. I was like, no way. She's like, yeah, we want you to be okay out here.
That's amazing.
But just to go through that, to see some of the beautiful sights and meet some of amazing people out there. I met a girl in Colorado at a recovery meeting who wanted to take me to go see, I think it was called Black Canyon or something like that. On the way up there, she's telling me the story about what my journey means to her. And she was telling me about how she had never done drugs. Both of her best friends had always been like real heavy addicts. Both of them died, so she went and tried the drugs that they were addicted to.
Man, yeah.
She said within 2 months, she lost everything, like her house, her full-time job, everything. Never had done drugs before.
Jeez.
Dealt with depression and tried to take her life a few times. So she said that one time there was this dude that she was talking to, but he had an addiction problem, so she kind of had to back off of him, and that she wanted to take her life. She said that she wrote like 15 or 16 letters and put them all in envelopes and was about to go mail them out when she got a knock on the door at like 2 a.m. It was the dude saying that he really needed help. So she got in the car with him. They drove. They were on like a really sketchy road in Colorado. Something happened and he lost control, or he hit like the side wall. And that made the dog come forward and throw the car and park, and it flipped the car and flew her out the thing. Half of the car landed on like the top half of her body. Like just like something out of a movie.
Holy cow.
All the way down. And she said that they waited for like 5 hours or something. I think she said it was 5 hours before she was actually life flighted out of there.
Oh my God.
She said that she knew she was down to her last two breaths when they heard the sirens coming around hours later.
Jeez.
And then 6 months later, she was up hiking a mountain with me to share that story.
See, there's tons of stories like that. Don't suppress those. Share those, people.
So many stories. There's so many people that have been through so much, and you would never ever know just seeing how they act or talking to them. Everybody has a story. Not everybody's story might be as dramatic or traumatic as everybody else's, but everybody's has a story, man.
They all matter, right?
Every single one of them
matter. Man, brother, I can't wait to get you in here for part 3 when you complete the other side, right? Because that's what we got to do. Every time you hit a corner, we got to get you in here to the podcast.
I know, but the awesome part about part 3, guys, for y'all tuning in, is this time, can I mention the goal?
Please, go for it.
This time, the goal is to raise anywhere from $50K to $100K for Addict to Athlete, this nonprofit organization.
Absolutely.
Their sign out there, they're about recovery, education, and recreation. I'm in recovery. I like to learn, and y'all know I like my recreation walking across America. So we will be going to, that's going to be the goal, is to raise funds for them. I got me some more Addict to Athlete gear that I will be rocking on the third part of this journey.
On the side of the road there. Yeah.
Exactly. Y'all can see me from a mile away. So make sure y'all tune in for that, guys. Please make sure y'all are sharing this journey because it is about mental health awareness and recovery. Awareness, guys, means sharing the journey, means telling people what this is about, sharing the links, tuning in, letting people know what's going on. I understand that everybody has their own lives and daily lives, and you can't tune in every single day. That's fine. If you ever see a post come across your feed, even if you can't share, just hit that react button. It helps so much to put it into the algorithms that push it to other people's pages, and you never know what anybody's going through or who might just randomly need to come across a journey like this or any other positive journey, even if it isn't my journey. Yeah. Other positive positive journeys. Let's help inspire each other and with positivity and love and kindness, man. And thank you
Love
for
it,
what
man.
you do, Blue.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate you being part of all this, and man, Godspeed, athletes. You've been well fed. This podcast will be on any platform and every platform that hosts, the podcasting network. I really do want to thank everybody again for coming out and being able to support Kindle, and also being able to be part of our proxy run, our overdose awareness tomorrow, and of course, the upcoming softball tournament that we're going to be having. So keep an eye on the webpage. Athletes, do your best every day to turn your mess into your message.